everybody. Welcome to Eden Fractal. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We're here for our 105th episode, and it's a special episode because it is the last episode, the last event of our first epoch. So, lots of exciting stuff to discuss today. Hope that you're having a wonderful day and appreciate you being here and appreciate you watching. Very pleased and blessed to be here with Eric and Rosmari. Thanks so much. I will get into a little presentation to provide an introduction to Eden Fractal and topics for the agenda for today. Feel free if you'd like to say hello, then of course you're very welcome to do so. All right. So if you're not familiar with Eden Fractal, check out edenfractal.com, which is for some reason not scrolling, which is for some reason stuck. Okay. Check out edenfractal.com as it shows you a million things at once. Okay. Maybe this part will be cut from the video. I don't know. It's not working, bro. It is working fine. Oh,
Check your CPU.
I checked it before and
It's okay. I can cut this, but maybe close your tabs.
yeah, I already closed a bunch and I had a lot free, but I think I just had to restart the browser again. Yeah, I'll try that because right now I can't stop the video.
Uh,
It's not letting me scroll or stop the video or anything like that. It was just working fine before I started screen sharing. So I guess the screen share messed it up in some way.
mm-hmm.
So I'll try.
Now we can see everything, by the way. Like
Yeah,
I can see it.
now you
So
can see it. Yeah. And
yeah,
now it seems to be working fine. So
yeah.
okay, maybe I'll just continue there.
Okay. Start with
With the introduction to Eden Fractal.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So welcome to Eden Fractal. If you're not familiar with Eden Fractal, you could check out edenfractal.com to learn more about what we're doing here. We're a community that creates innovative games, shows, and tools, and we have a vision that all communities and organizations should have the tools and methods to make the best decision making possible. That collective decision should be fast, fair, and fun. I'd like to also explain a little bit about our vision and mission to kick us off each episode. You can learn more about it on the website. We have a place where you can learn how we used fractal decision-making processes that we're implementing throughout society to determine these. And that's our mission, in fact, to implement fractal decision-making processes throughout society via collaborative research, development, education, gamification, and community engagement. And we host events every week that anyone can join to help optimize decision making with joyful consensus games. Although we are planning to do a new schedule going into next epoch, which we'll talk about. And our events provide a perfect place to network with talented builders and learn how to grow your community with these profoundly helpful processes. And of course, participate in the videos too, because we produce videos of each event, and we have over 100 videos that you can watch at edenfractal.com/videos. Check out tools that we're building as well to help any community collaborate with these decision making processes and consensus games. So hope that you'll enjoy visiting the website and learning more, and feel free to join. We'd love to meet new people. You can RSVP for the events at Eden Fractal on lou.mouse/Eden Fractal rather, and sign up and invite friends. And at today's event, we're going to be talking about the first epoch and the second epoch of Eden Fractal. So we'll reflect on our journey, perhaps set goals for our future, and help shape the next epoch of Eden Fractal. So we put out a tweet here from Eden creators. Appreciate likes and support and retweets and so forth. We'll get into the topic a little bit, but during last week's event, basically, I introduced a proposal for Eden Fractal Epoch 2, and there are lots of exciting ideas that we discussed there. And so we'll dive deeper perhaps into some of those, as well as just reflect upon our progress so far and plan out for the next season as well. By the way, we'll be having a 4-week summer break and be returning on August 15th. You can check out all the videos of the past events over here. For example, we had a great video talking about fractal pitches and community ambitions and fractal stories at our 2-year anniversary, and much more there, as well as on the Eden Creators YouTube channel, where you can watch videos of Optimism Fractal, Eden Fractal, and much more great shows about communities collaborating with fractal decision-making processes, and RSVP for the events each week for Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And check out more at optimismfractal.com to learn more about Optimism Fractal and how you can get involved there as well. So today's agenda, as we do here, we're going to be playing a little game we call Agendas to choose topics, and anybody can just propose or suggest a topic in Telegram. So I propose a topic or share a topic in Telegram. Well, I guess first I could just provide a little bit more context because I already kind of introduced it, but I propose a topic to discuss more about our next epoch, basically. And so this tweet kind of lays it out, basically. Basically, everyone will have the opportunity to share thoughts on the history and future of Eden Fractal and discuss what worked well, what could be improved, and the vision for the next epoch. And also, if you have any feedback about the article, I would love to hear it, and the proposal. And now that we've had more time to think about it, you could see the recording that Rosmari shared of the last week's episode where we discussed this in more detail and had a great conversation. Big thanks to Rosmari and Eric for all the insights and input there. And yeah, I put out a little bit of a message as well, following up on that too, saying how I appreciate it. And there haven't been objections to the proposal, and the Eden Fractal doesn't currently have an operation consensus process. We've had some before, so basically planning to just take this initiative as founder and moderator to announce that summer break. So basically, I'm also going to schedule in office hours too to provide a space for anyone who'd like to talk during summer break, and probably do that bi-weekly schedule too, so we can keep talking. But all that's explained basically in the article, but just as a little announcement about how it's going, and then followed up with some more details here as well. But anybody's following t.me/Eden Fractal can see all of the news, basically the second epoch. For anybody who missed last week's episode, main changes introduced here are switching to bi-weekly event schedule, restarting respect games, building on base, which you can learn about at base.org, rebooting our consensus process, and potentially introducing other spaces based on demand. And the article has much more details here. Special thanks to Rosmari too for inspiring many of the ideas on the article, as well as everybody who provided feedback and who's helped so much in Eden Fractal so far. But we went over it last week in more detail, and then that's in all the messages you can find. The details about Epoch 2 that I shared. Basically, the tools are nearly ready for the EVM and the next set of, and there's a lot of opportunities. And so I think that this will be a great way to be able to achieve our vision and mission more effectively. So you can learn more about the summer break, the bi-weekly event schedule, the respect games on base, bootstrap the new consensus process, and introducing discussion spaces on demand in more detail, as well as some reflections on Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal, some acknowledgements, opportunities, plans for regeneration, and exciting updates about how Eden Fractal can work with Optimism Fractal and the opportunities going on in the superchain. So if anybody has feedback about that, then feel free to reach out. Also, feel free to request Notion, access to Notion page. You can leave comments there. Thanks to Tadas for leaving some comments directly on Notion here. There's been some great discussions happening here as well. Tadas was saying he likes Eric's idea as well. So lots has been going on. Thanks to also Sebastian for providing feedback too in the Telegram chat. And yeah, basically just want to give a little introduction. And I wanted to note too, we talked about how Optimism Fractal is also planning to take a break too. So I just made a proposal for Optimism Fractal to start season 4 of Optimism Fractal on August 15th on the day after Eden Fractal's return as well. And Optimism Fractal will have a 2-week break. So people can find that on Snapshot as well in the Optimism Fractal space. So that's that basically. And I'm very excited to be here as we embark on the next epoch of Eden Fractal, and curious to hear your thoughts. So yeah, basically open discussion. Rosmari, Eric, if you have anything on your mind that you want to share in regards to our first epoch and what we've done over the past 104 events and what we should do in the next epoch. We talked about setting goals, so we could perhaps discuss that, or if you have any ideas that came to mind about the proposal for the next epoch and what we'll do, then the floor is open basically, and I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. We can have open discussion.
Well, if you kind of summarize our history, which is kind of a good time to sit back and, phase 1 was, what the heck is this book, More Equal Animals? That was kind of phase 1. What is this thing? This is kind of radical ideas. What does it mean? We all kind of have ideas of how we can make the world better and work together better to do that. And so the first phase was really kind of fleshing out understanding of what that book is, what you mean, how to do it. So it was that was almost a pre-epoch or epoch, or this could almost be epoch 3 if you want to look at it that way. Because first one was, here's a concept, let's explore and understand the concept. Phase 2 was kind of like, okay, so how do we do this thing? Now we kind of understand that, how do we actually implement that? And we realized that kind of the first step of that was build the culture and the team to do it. So it was really about team building and learning to communicate, pay attention, work together, and develop the tools and come up with who we want to help, how we want to do it, kind of mission, vision kind of thing. So it was really about how do we do this and how do we craft the mission and vision and a basic prototype to do that. So in the next view, where I think we're going is we're now going to turn that prototype into a minimum viable product and launch it, and then we're going to learn how to use what we've learned into building a prototype for decision making, putting that together, and testing that out. So now that we're moving to MVP, it's time to share what we have with the world and then move on to the next step. And as part of that, hopefully I'll be able to add some value by testing this in a rigorous academic framework to get credibility from traditional organizations that don't like to move till they think something is credible and real. So a lot of people don't like new things in traditional organizations. So it's not only can we get the new organizations that are excited and willing to try new things, but start making inroads how we approach traditional organizations.
Yep, very well said. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, something I could also add to that I mentioned in last week's episode, but for anybody who's just tuning into this week's episode, that's quite relevant, is and I briefly mentioned that the next set of tools is nearly ready. But I think that, to Eric's point, now, one of the things we discussed last week was that we've had a lot of processes and pieces for products and maneuver products that many people could use, and communities like Optimism Fractal and several other communities have been able to piece together these pieces. But I think we're nearly at the point, and probably the next couple of weeks we'll be at the point where we have like an all-in-one app that can be a really easy thing for people to use. And from there, people can use that to play the respect game or some variant of the respect game in Fractal breakout rooms. And then from there, we'll be able to piece it together with having decision-making processes built in directly in that app as well. So I agree. Basically, this can be a point where we can take what we've learned and what we've done over the past 105 events and all this formulating the mission and creating the culture and the team and learning and experimenting with these things and really take it to mainstream and really achieve our mission and be in position to achieve our mission of implementing it throughout society with these new tools and everything we've learned. So I'm very excited for that as well. And I think it'll be enormously helpful and endlessly exciting. Curious if you have any thoughts about this, Rosmari, if there's anything else you want to share. I also had one other thing that was on my mind as well, but I can get to that later, and I've already spoken quite a bit. So
I agree. You can share whatever is on your.
Okay. Well, yeah. Just one thing that I just was realizing as I was going through my presentation before was and kind of reflecting on what Eric talked about potentially having 3 epochs and different like kind of timelines of what we've been doing. And there's one comment that Tadas shared on the Notion proposal that I found really interesting. He suggested, and this is kind of like a small detail in some ways, but it's also pretty exciting in some other ways too. And just curious, just kind of want to throw it out here too while we're here at the last Epoch event. I'll maybe share the screen again. Tadas has suggested so Tadas, well, one thing he liked the idea of the bi-weekly schedule, but then he also had suggested too that he likes the idea of epochs too, and counting epochs in addition to seasons too. And so one idea that he had was maybe 4 seasons equals 1 epoch. And I was looking through that and I just found it pretty interesting. I looked at edenfractal.com/videos and just scrolled through all the episodes we've done. And it seems like that kind of 4 seasons per epoch thing could work well, because that would basically mean that each season for Eden Fractal is about half a year, which is different from Optimism Fractal, which is, I think, doing 12-week seasons. But it could be a nice experiment. It's similar to Optimism Collective, who's doing half-year seasons as well. And yeah, like for example, we started doing agendas and started really defining our mission and vision around the 27th event. As Eric said, we're kind of like in the early formative stages, but before the 27th event, where we were just coming together and building tools, and people didn't really know what it was yet, but we all found this common desire around this fractal process, and we're all inspired by miracle animals and all these things for the first 26 events, and obviously we still are. But starting on the 26th or 27th event, we implemented a proposal to formalize like the structure with the agendas where people can vote with respect on topics, and we started to think about our mission and vision much more seriously. And then we celebrated our anniversary on the 53rd event, and we had a bunch of great respect games, and a bunch of people joined, and it was kind of like a whole different era. So that was like kind of like the second season in this kind of frame. And then in the event 77, we kind of switched to shorter events, and we stopped playing the respect game for a while. And we really honed in on our vision and mission as well. So that's just an idea that I was inspired. I liked it. I also had a conversation with ChatGPT about what an epoch is, and it kind of works where seasons can fit within epochs, and each of those had like naturally distinct themes that emerge. And if you want, we can go through, and I could just show you like these different episodes that we had, because we have all these beautiful thumbnails thanks to Rosmari, and all these amazing episodes thanks to everybody who's participated. But yeah, you can see kind of like the episodes where we were like discussing these things. So anyway, that was just an idea that I figured I was kind of inspired by, and I think it's personally a good idea to have that kind of seasonal structure in addition of like a 6-month season and the 4-season epoch. But it's just an idea to throw out there as well.
I don't think epochs have a specific time. Epochs are about change. Like an epoch is an age of change. So what is the change? And I our first change was understanding. I think our second change was coming up with our it was about community building and prototyping. And I think our next is about sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of epoch, you can have as many seasons as you want, but I think of epochs as more like what change occurred. It's kind of like pre-dinosaur, post-dinosaur. It's a big change.
Right. Okay, well, good point. And yeah, we don't have to, as Tadas wrote, don't need to like rush into it or making decisions. And that was just an interesting idea that I had, but I agree that makes sense. And I think that we're certainly embarking on some big changes here that will very much change what we've done so far for the past 6 months and going forward. So,
well, and here's one of the big things I think is that when you do community building, one of the core factors in building communities is purpose. And I think epochs talk about purpose. Our purpose is to make this change. And then seasons are about, well, what could we do to facilitate that change in this limited period of time? So, change occurs by doing things over time. So seasons breaks up that epoch. But you could say, all right, in a year, that's our epoch. In a year, here's the change, I suppose. But then you have to be really clear, because you should have an annual goal anyway. It should be very fluid and flexible, because when you're dealing in innovation prototyping, a lot can change in a year. So what you think is going to happen can be completely different, which is okay. You kind of say, I think this is where we want to go, and you work toward there. But a season is about getting something more specific done. That's kind of where you focus, is how can we get our attention focused together on something for a limited amount of time. And the reason you have a season is because people get burned out. So if you just keep doing this, you say, oh, here's what we're going to do in the next 10 years, you'll have people start to leave because they don't get a sense of momentum and accomplishment. So you have to give people a sense of momentum and accomplishment for them to want to stay. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a basketball game without a scoreboard.
Right. And also seasons provide a benefit, and epochs as well, that you can experiment more things. Like epoch, you can experiment with big changes like we're doing now. But seasons, we can also try like tweaks and so forth from season to season. So that's another nice benefit of the seasonal structure as well. And for sure, the burnout part too, because we've been doing a lot of events. We've done 105 of these, so it'll be nice to. That's one of the things we've learned too, and one of the reasons why I proposed that, as we discussed last time too, because it's a lot of work to host these events and to like do all the work behind promoting them and producing them and so forth. And we really need to be
I
smart
think
about how we achieve our mission and vision.
what we've kind of been missing until this last was this purpose of where are we going. If you notice, the people who came back go, oh yeah, finally, oh yeah, this is great. So they start saying, okay, so that's just part of that equation, is this idea of purpose. So we haven't had that. The other thing is we've been missing autonomy. Right now, everybody can do anything they want, but there's no framework to put it in. So how do we work together with the purpose, but give people the autonomy? An example of autonomy could be, oh, this person wants to share it with the pizza restaurant. Oh, this person wants to share it. You know, they have autonomy to do that and come back to the group and recognize, be realizing that's integrated as part of purpose. And you know, recognition, when we get the respect game back, we got that in there too. So recognition is one of the great things that we build in, but we've been missing purpose, and we've been missing that kind of structure. And we don't want to be too much structure, then you have no autonomy. But you want a way for when people do things, it rolls back in that, and you say, oh, yes, this is how you want to contribute to this purpose. I think it's there. We just haven't formally, you know what I mean? It's been kind of, people don't get that feeling of moving from time because it's not, you know, the way you perceive time is by events. It's not by seconds. It's how many things happen. So, you know, like when you get an intense period, it's like my life flashed before my eyes, time moved really fast, I remembered so much. It was like, you know, it's like, no, you just pay more attention. That's what happens, is you pay more, so you pay attention to more events, so things move. So when you give people that aid to help them track time by these events and recognizing how their events gets in there, it makes all of our lives better.
Well, I agree. Great points. Thank you, Eric. I'm also curious too. We've heard a lot from myself and a lot from Eric, and Rosemary's been fairly quiet, so I could speak more and respond. But Rosemary, very curious to hear your thoughts, anything that's on your mind in general regarding anything we've discussed, or Epoch 2, perhaps what you'd like to see going forward, and Epoch 2 or Reflections Epoch 1. Is there anything you'd like to share, Rosemary?
Yeah, probably more structure would be nice for probably more structure for participants, I suppose, and keeping more record on contributions or participation. I think that's what I got as a as what Eric was talking about for structure and the autonomous way of doing things. I know we have, for example, Optimism Fractal Notion hub which is full of tasks and projects for anyone to start a task that is already in there, or give them ideas on how they can join or participate. I don't know if we have something similar for Eden Fractal, but that's one way to provide more structure, I suppose. And another way could be probably giving more media coverage on our participants in both breakout rooms. I think this would be a good thing to strive for the next epoch when we start to play the respect game in Eden Fractal again. And keeping structure for contributions, weekly contributions. And I know we have discussed previously in some Eden Fractal events, for example, having a profile for each participant. For example, in Notion, we can have a page for probably participants and maybe key contributions they've made. So I am also curious to hear what you guys think as with regards to setting up goals. If we can actually set up goals in this event, or it requires a bit more brainstorming and making these goals smart goals. I think I personally don't have that many goals in mind that I've written down and I can present in this event, but I can come up with some, such as, for example, attendance, the number of participants to increase by X amount by X date. That's something that I think you'll probably everyone would agree with as one of the goals. And also, how many goals do we want to set up to, and by when?
Excellent points.
Yeah. So one way to I think about this is a platform for everybody to get their goals. So how the structure is enough to how do we turn this as a platform to support people's efforts. Like an example of that is, there's a town hall. So how do we turn the town hall into something where it promotes other people so that you and Dan aren't doing all the work? Turn it more into a platform where it helps us all achieve this purpose, but that's what I meant by autonomy. It allows people to come in, and it's a platform for them to get their things done in a way that meets the overall goal. And I'm a huge fan of measurable goals, but I'm a big fan of 90 days. That's my favorite time period, is what can we do in 90 days? Because it's easy for people to understand 90 days internally. You don't have to explain 90 days to anybody. But if I say 120 days, you kind of have to explain, well, what does 120 days look like? People understand a week, but a week is enough time to get some small things, but not make a big change. And a month, same thing. You can get a lot done in a month, but 90 days is enough time that you can get stuff done, but it's not so long that people get burned out on it. So 90 days, it's enough time to really get something done, but not so long that people are, oh, no, not more, please. Then you kind of refresh, and then one of my friends, all his employees left. He did this amazing thing, and they did it, and he's like, okay, now we can do this. And I'm like, no, I'm out. They all quit. Like, yeah, you need to give people a break before you have them do some really amazing thing.
Right. Okay, well, yeah, good points all around. I see
For
Rosmari and Dan.
yes, for example, Retro PGF for governance, that round is coming up in September. So maybe setting up goals to align with this Retro PGF for Eden Fractal. I mean, goals for Eden Fractal. Then that's something to consider for sure.
That's true. That's an excellent point. And that might be about 90 days or so by the time we come back, or maybe not quite 90 days. That's probably maybe 40 days until it will start or something. But the season usually goes on or the round for Retro PGF probably goes on for another month or two. So that might be about 90 days that we could perhaps orient around the governance round. I believe Optimism is giving out 10 million OP, which is quite a substantial amount of funding. And we were actually just speaking with the head of marketing at Optimism too, and she was interested in doing some sort of collaborations along with to help support the both Optimism Fractal and with the Optimism retro funding around governance. And Optimism Fractal, one of the core intents is optimizing governance in the super chain. And with Eden Fractal also deploying software to play respect games on base, which is a part of the super chain, we'll be in a good position to contribute to the super chain and governance of the super chain. And there's a huge amount of people joining there too. So to Rosemary's point about joining the events, we'll be in a position where we can provide that platform, like Gary was talking about as well, where people can like autonomously bring what they want to do and accomplish their goals at Eden Fractal and at Optimism Fractal too, and also with the tools that people like Tadas are building, like Abraham is working on, Vlad is working on, and so forth. So all these things combined can set up like a really nice kind of, I think last week we discussed a flywheel where we could provide a lot of value for people who are joining, which can come in turn for more people to want to join and for us to get to achieve our goals in terms of participation. Like one of the things I wrote about in the Epoch 2 proposal is that there used to be about 15 people who join Eden Fractal each week, but it's been more like probably average of 5 or something, like some days like 3 like us today. So to get to that 15 again, maybe do that within the 90 days and like get back to that like stable 15 would be great. But we also, as these processes are designed for hundreds and thousands of people and also can be deployed by many others, we can set another metric for like how many people are playing the respect game total, or how many people are doing Fractal decision-making process total, both at Eden Fractal and at other communities that are implementing Fractal decision-making process as well, because there's probably 10, 20 or more communities that express a lot of interest in deploying this once the software is ready. So that's another metric we might want to consider for our goals. And then also, like Rosmari was saying, retro funding too. It'd be worth considering what kind of goals we could set to like maximize our impact there and best align, and what kind of strategy we'd have to best align with Optimism retro funding. I think it's a huge opportunity to focus on governance. And the next one's also focused on dev tooling, which Eden Fractal can help with too, because dev tooling requires some decision making, of course, to build better dev tools. And then there'll be many other opportunities too as we explore the super chain ecosystem and the EVM ecosystem. And also it's easier to branch out to real world communities or communities who aren't on chain yet, but are just building like nonprofits and business and so forth. So yeah, I know it's kind of a lot of information, but I was getting inspired. And I suppose maybe 3 kind of rough draft proposals I can think about for the goals are 1, like amount of participants at Eden Fractal events, 2, amount of participants and people who are participating in respect games or Fractal decision making processes in general. Maybe 3, like how many communities or organizations have onboarded and started to implement these processes. And maybe 4, something maybe specifically related about retro funding, or maybe like how many people can get and how much funding can be raised for people like us and other people who are building these Fractal decision making processes as well. Might also be a good kind of measurable metric. So those are some suggestions. Also, thanks, Rosmari, for sharing the Notion page where you put down some ideas about
what
we've discussed so far.
So in goal setting, there's kind of 3 things you need to think about. Rosmari is a fan of SMART goals, so measurable, that's in there. The first thing to think about is that there's 2 kinds of measurements. There's lag measurements and lead measurements. So lag measurements are things that happen that once you measure it, you can't change it. Like if you said my goal is to lose 10 pounds a month, and then at the end of the month I get on the scale, that's a lag measurement. It's a good measurement, but I can't do anything about it. It doesn't help me lose weight. It just says, are we getting to where we want? A lead measurement is, what are those things you need to do to get to that? For example, if you say, we want to have so many people here, that's a lag measurement because the people show up or they don't. The lead measurement, well, how do we get people here? It's send a reminder. Okay, that's a lead measurement. Call people up. That's a lead. Offer an incentive. That's a lead measurement. So lag measurements are a lot easier. Lead measurements are harder because you have to understand what it is which is driving that result, and sometimes you don't know. well, maybe this, maybe that. But once you get it, then you can say, oh, that's what drives it. So, example of that is a lot of people go sales goals. Oh, we need to make this much sales goals. And then we get mad at everybody and fire them if they don't meet their numbers. But it's like, well, wait a minute, how do you get there? You didn't help them. If it's make so many cold calls a day, okay, that's a lead measurement. The other kind of measurement to think about as you're doing this, besides lag measurements, which are important, and the lead measurements, which I think can be sometimes more important. But the other one is impact measurements. Like how many people show up is a lag measurement, but it's also not an impact measurement. An impact measurement is something we can measure and how change. Like if one that's kind of both is we apply for a grant and we get it. It's measurable, it's a lag, it's a result, but it also has an impact. So we want to think about just not what are we doing, but what are the impact we're trying to have with that goal. And you can have all those types together. They're not bad or good, but we just need to make sure we don't think of, oh, here's things we're doing. One day I went to a government meeting, and it was 2 days of looking at their entire processes and all their measurements. I went up to the leader of the organization, head guy, and I said, there's not one measurement in this whole 2 days of dissecting this, which has anything to do with outcomes for the users. It's all based on the processes yourself. Here's how I measure this process. But there's nothing that says whether this process is actually doing anything good. So you need to make sure that as we get more people, it's having the impact that we want to make. So that's just a good thing to get in our decision making is, okay, what do we want to do? Great measurement. Are there any lead measurements that we want to push ahead of time and incentivize to get to that lag measurement? And then the other thing is, oh, this lag measurement you picked, is it having an impact or not? Is it just something we assume is good, like people here, or what's the impact we're trying to have? So we should at least think of those things as can we look for measurements that have an impact, and can we figure out what the lead measurements are?
Great points. Thank you. I think this conversation will be very helpful to go back and listen to, and also have AI summarize as we go in to define these. Another couple ideas. We have 6 minutes left to the top of the hour, but I want to share a couple ideas about measurements that I think might be good to include, and curious to hear more thoughts before we wrap it up. So one, I mentioned participants joining and funds raised and everything like that. There's also other metrics that I think would be defined as lag metrics probably, but also I guess maybe some elements of lead, mostly lag, is like video views. We want more people to watch the videos as we're creating videos together. Also social media impressions. I've been speaking with Rosmari, and one of the things we've talked about is reaching out to people, like for example, key influencers and Optimism and Base, and perhaps just like community leaders, DJs, people who have followings who might be interested in implementing this process. And we've been talking about having kind of a lead indicator, like, hey, let's reach out to 10 people a week or something like that, to help guide and help like propel that kind of success. So things like that, and also reaching out to different communities, or I suppose also maybe some measurements with the tools too, about what tools are built exactly and what kind of milestones are being reached. Those could also be measurements too. And then also, well, I had one other note about educational channel written down too, because we've been talking for a while about making some sort of educational institute or something like that to help share these kinds of concepts. So there could eventually be measurements involved there. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different measurements we can do. Oh, and one other idea too is we talked several times about having some sort of qualitative measures too about feedback. So perhaps getting more structured, taking time during the summer break and taking time that we'll have during the bi-weekly event schedule with more time to kind of work in the background to do things like setting up good systems for receiving feedback, like having a feedback page that people can easily share their thoughts on. and maybe having some metrics or a survey, as you may put enough the heart, as you mentioned that several times. So those are also metrics that we can take into account too, because we don't just want more people to join and like just at any cost. We want to maintain a really great culture and grow a really great culture and provide a lot of value and have people feel like, wow, that was an amazing amazing way to spend my time, and that helps so much. So that's another kind of metric that we should that would be great to measure. And I suppose going over the next couple of weeks, we can also just figure out all sorts of different metrics and perhaps categorize them according to different kinds of strategic goals and objectives and so forth. So that's what I had to share there. There's a lot of other great stuff that's been discussed, and we did start a bit late. So if we want, we could continue discussion a bit longer, but also we could wrap it up in the next few minutes too. Curious, I could also share a little outro as well to kind of sign us off um, for the Epoch 2, and also a part of me wanted to show the screen Rosmari put together on Notion that kind of has an overview, but we already discussed it too, so I don't know if I need to show it, and I could probably just say without showing the screen. One other thing I want to mention too is that just as a recap and some next steps that I'm planning. One, so I did host the first office hours or a office hours event after the Optimism Fractal meeting last week, and there was I spoke with Abraham and Will and Jacob, and we had a great conversation for a half hour or so. So I put together an event there and shared that in the Eden Fractal Telegram group. So I am planning to schedule that either next Wednesday or in 2 Wednesdays from now. And as always, feel free to just reach out in the Eden Fractal Telegram chat with any thoughts or comments or questions throughout the break, or feel free to reach out to me directly as well. Happy to continue the conversation as we take the break, and I hope that everybody has a wonderful summer break too. And yeah, we'll follow up with more details about that in the Eden Fractal Telegram group. And then also just to reiterate, Eden Fractal will be returning on August 15th. And then we'll be doing a bi-weekly schedule at that point, and we'll be doing the respect games and all the other stuff we talked about. And Optimism Fractal, the next event is happening tomorrow at 17 UTC, followed by Town Hall at 18 UTC, and these will be continuing until the 25th, so for another 2 weeks after the Eden Fractal, and then also going on a 2-week break and returning on the 15th. So just to reiterate that kind of information, and also thank everybody for all the great discussion. Thanks so much, Rosmari, and thanks so much, Eric. And thanks everybody so much for all the great contributions and all the special memories and amazing times during our first Epoch. Really very grateful for what we're doing together here and everybody's support and contributions, and very excited for all these goals that we'll achieve in, I think, our first 90 days, or at least set to achieve and measure in our first 90 days at Eden Fractal's second Epoch. Rosmari, Eric, is there anything else you want to share during today's event?
So something that's kind of infrastructure kind of goals, just to think, is connection. That's one thing we want to foster. How do we build more connection, autonomy, mastery, purpose, energy, recognition? Those are things we want to think about as we're setting goals, because that's kind of like foundation goals. Just something to think about.
Interesting. I don't know exactly what you mean. If maybe you could provide a specific example.
Well, why do people come? One reason they come is for connection. So when we look at connection, we can think of, are there any goals we can have to improve connection? These are just things to think about, because it goes back to why people come up, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. You know, the other thing is this autonomy. How do we measure the ability of people using our platform to do things, to make decisions, to make choices? And we can even give them choices. Just the fact they have a choice, even if we say, do you want to do A, B, or C, is a way to get autonomy. They feel it's like when we have kids, would you like to do this or would you like to do that?
And so that's something we could put in, say, a qualitative survey where people can answer questions and like
basically, or we just give them a choice, do this or that. You know, you get to choose. You do. We're already doing it. Like, you know, what do you want to talk about this week? That is an example of that. But we can look at that and say, how can we make that better? That can be part of our goals. How do we get people more involved?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How can more people make proposals for topics, and
or how do we get them involved in that? How do we get them why aren't they? We can take it apart and say, why aren't they doing it? We can have a goal to figure out why don't we do that? we can't argue that, okay, this is it, nobody's using it. Great. All right.
Okay, good points. Much more to think about. Thank you, Eric. If you have anything else you want to share, then feel free. Or I see Rosemary's unmuted. Would be happy to hear.
No, I have to go. I have to
Okay.
go get on a call.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Eric. Looking forward to seeing you. Hope you enjoy the summer, and I'll see you hopefully at the office hours, or feel free to reach out to me whenever. And really excited to collaborate, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yep.
Thank you.
See ya.
Oh, check your Telegram for some San Diego videos you might like.
Okay. Sounds good. Will do. Thank you. Rosemary, is there anything else you'd like to say during this event, during the first epoch of Eden Fractal?
As Eric was saying about like fostering connections, we talked about earlier at some point last week, I think, about creating maybe a Notion database with people's contact information so that they can reach out to each other. So that could be another thing.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I like what you said about having kind of like Notion profiles for each person. We talked about that a lot too, where you could see their contact information and also the videos we produce. And then that's also another kind of lead metric we could do about building that kind of that system. And I also have a lot of ideas about how that can integrate with HATS protocol. So you can have some levels of privacy for people who participate in the events and all sorts of benefits and stuff like that too. So it's a great idea. It's a great goal.
Yes.
And for anybody watching,
Maybe we can do some polls too or something, but in Telegram.
Yes, or on chain, on Snapchat too, with respect.
Yes.
That might also be a good metric too, how much people are using their respect, how much people are voting with respect, or how much they're giving respect, or if we had to do personal respect, or how much they're using it. I think that would be a great metric that we can measure. And just for anybody's watching the whole thing about HATS protocol too, that's a system that can allow people to get different abilities based on how much respect they have. So more coming about that next epoch.
Okay.
All right. So is there anything else, Rosemary, that you'd like to share?
Of course, there's also always more, but I think it's good to end it here.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing more of your thoughts over the break and after the break as well. And thanks so much for everything, Rosemary. Thanks so much. As I said, you're a huge inspiration for this epoch too, and wouldn't be happening without you. That's for sure. And I can't express how much I appreciate everything you do and how grateful I am that we met during Epoch 1. So thank you so much for everything. And
for everything. And thanks for starting it too.
No, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Okay.
And thank you everybody else for helping to start it too. And everybody contributing to it and making it so special and making it what it's been so far, making it all possible. So really excited for all we'll do together, and we're just beginning in a second epoch. Very exciting next path going forward. So thank you again, Rosemarie. Thanks, shout out to Eric for all the great stuff. Shout out to Tadas and everybody else who's contributed so much over the past 2 years. And you mentioned so many people who have done so much. So thank you all. Really greatly appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing you after summer break in Epoch 2. Feel free to reach out and see you there.
Let's roll Epoch 2.
Let's roll Epoch 2. Should we say 3, 2, 1, go Eden Fractal, or go Epoch 2? As I got the balloons, party balloons, little celebration going on here.
Okay. Go
okay. Go Epoch 2.
Yep.
Okay. 3,
2,
1.
Go
Epoch 2. And go Eden Fractal.
Go Eden Fractal.
That's right. All right. Thanks so much, and see you next time.
See you.